involved with and confusion. This is a great opportunity now to ask a question that I can answer for you. This happened last night too, so that's a good thing. That means that we're finally getting around all the information out. It also means our meeting will be a little shorter because I had 20 minutes built in for questions. All right. I will tell you that I stole this. Borrowed it from the web, and so I wanted to make sure that I give credit where credit is due to Vicki Kittner Duffy, Coaching Chips. That's her website. And she she put this together, and I caught in your handouts, you have one with a little border. And I would like for you to take a minute to think of your coaching toolbox. What are some of your go-to questions? Go ahead and write and list a few. What are your go-to questions? So there's a paper with a little fancy border around it?
Yeah.
Was it traffic bad?
I had a student teacher from the senior side. We had a meeting with the student.
No problem. Was it traffic bad?
No.
So it cleared up?
Unless there's an accident right by the
Oh, I saw that. It was kind of cleared up right in there. And
like 4 cars.
oh yeah, I saw that. But still.
Taking a pop quiz, so that's why it's quiet. Shut up. From now until March. I don't remember thinking that we were going on
Whatever mother what a lesson of what to do next steps. What are your concerns? In detail.
Yeah, one of their multi-city but I had 2 or 4, and he wanted to have his assessment drive his teaching. So we also have this yeah.
Yeah, so when she comes back, you have a
And that's what I want to do is remember to do.
probably looks like she's going to do it.
talking to you, how are the relationships that you have with your students? Because when the student feels comfortable, the student has to have that working, and the students feel comfortable, you don't feel like coming alone.
I don't know about how Chacho does their sessions.
Oh, good.
But I'll, yeah.
Perfect.
And then I'll just.
And then we'll have, yeah. Turn one into her at the beginning so that it jogs. I guess you can just email her. We don't have to turn it. Just email her and tell her not coming in because. And then.
I'll get the specific reason before you want to say
Yeah, that's a long
that.
time.
I know we were going to this I mean, she and I can.
So she wrote her IL.
Oh, yeah. After a day like this.
Now, definitely. I might have her in second class. She's
I
probably
have self-esteem in my favorites, but
I saw that. My readers.
I'll just keep passing it. Yeah, that's good.
CC me on this, I'll remember.
All right, with your Alba partner, I have some questions I want you to discuss as it relates to your questions. So reflect on your questions and what are the types of questions you use. So kind of try to categorize them. And why do you use these questions? How do you know when to use which question? How do you know when a question is effective? How do you adapt your questions based on the teacher's responses? And how do you use questions to sustain a back and forth exchange with teachers? So here's some questions I want you to look at. So reflect again on your list. And then in your table groups, talk about these questions and how you would answer them based on the list that you wrote.
And make it open-ended, not like yes or no, because you're about to say yes, and there's, and then you're like, oh, hey, that's your second. I like to get open-ended.
I think it depends on the like but also just like, you know, like if I first just ask them to, you know, because I feel like that could be information. We usually talk about that for the whole and
How are you feeling guys? Like, never, I got well, unless it's like, are not there, I'm like, hey, let's see, you know.
Mine are pretty just, they're not like open-ended questions. I try to answer like, put one, what is something that you feel like that's hot, so just kind of start with the positive. My thing is the teacher, like, when they have meetings, it's always like, start with their strengths first, and then, you know, talk about their needs or whatever, so it's like my mindset all the time.
So,
I like that. Like,
yeah,
what do you feel like is working
that's
for
why
you? What do you feel like is not working?
I
Just like,
feel like
what can I help you with?
most of the time,
All the meetings are just start out
How
things are going.
Right.
that usually leads
Because I already can tell by their
Right.
what's going on.
along the time.
Does she have her own class?
She has two collabs and another one, I'm sorry, two,
Where are you guys all at?
sophomores, yeah, so 8th grade is sophomore English and last year is senior English.
I'm pretty sure it's Travis.
Clover.
That one's Coke. Yeah, yeah.
So that no one could say.
Yeah, I'm having a hard enough time with free software this year.
I just don't know.
That's a good idea. For like evidence.
I did SDC for 2
So we
years.
see each other all the time.
Nobody
We
needs
have
to
the
see
same
you.
colors, you know, we're on We're always
I did general ed.
Now she's doing downtown convalescent.
No, I don't mind. I can
Just to wake up in the middle of the summer. and
Oh, I like.
yeah, she's been in this bed stuff. I always tell her, hey, show something that's gonna change, make sure I'm like,
Did you ever talk 7 Did you have Noah?
She leaves it to her.
Yeah.
they're happy.
Or 2 years ago, he was a sophomore. I know, once they leave you, they like lose track of it. I do. I know, that's what I do with my other kids. Like when they come back, I get their siblings from Travis, and I'm like, are you in now? And they're like, junior, and I'm like, oh my god. Or they're like, I graduated like 2 years. Yeah, right. You like lose, once they leave your campus, you like lose track of them. They come back, I'm like, oh my god, where'd you go? How's he doing?
Yeah, they
He's just
email
good.
everybody. Yeah.
Soccer team.
Jeff,
Jeff's the head
everybody else,
coach.
we all.
Yeah, my husband's the head coach for, because last year he was, Noah was on, made varsity as a starting goalie, as a freshman, and then, Jeff was the assistant to JV, and then Leo, this year, like at the end of the season, he resigned, and so then Jeff interviewed like 2 other guys, so there's 3 guys that interviewed, and they went through like 2 or 3 rounds of interviews. He got that head position, so he's doing that now, so.
But she's
Our boys, Miguel. Okay, Miguel, well, Miguel is the coach at RMS, but he's assistant with the high school, which he was last year. Okay. And then you're. Yeah, they're playing the championship. Yeah, I heard.
she's on it, like,
Yeah. Noah's 8th grade year, they went to the championship and they lost like second, but at least they got there. Right. You know, so Pedro was like the whole time, like he was like, and then they got second. So, yeah, I hope they're successful. Yeah. That'd be good. So he's goalie. Yeah, he's a keeper. He's always so much more. I love that. Yeah. He plays football. So, but like this year, like the last couple of years, his first year is 04, and he was playing 03 on his college. And then, what? And then this year though, for football, his coach pushed one of the girls in high school, and he pushed them to 3-7, and then he put Noah up there too, and so, but now it's like they're an 02-03 team, but they play 01-02. So he's one of the kids that have graduated, and he's a sophomore. You know. Is it like Sarah? No, he's at Alliance for coaches. Oh, okay. There's so many clubs around it. Yeah, I do too. No, it's my other son. I guess still agree with you.
I like it because I used to put the kids away. And I said, if I forget, she could just toast for you. It is what it is. We won't let you have them because laptops.
I felt something. And then he left to be a
You might just. She came to my program a week. Oh, so good.
All right. You have a chart that labels the type of questions. What we're looking at now are more of an open-ended, how do we get the teacher to have that aha moment without you telling them what they need to know or need to do. And so we have these 4 categories here: identify, compare, analyze, and brainstorm. And then in the chart, you have some generic samples and some specific examples of those questions. All right. And then on the back, there's more. It's kind of like that commercial for $9.99, but wait, there's more. All right. So this is just the beginning. In addition to the ones we just mentioned, you might ask questions that elicit the teacher's perspective. How do you feel? How comfortable are you? Encourage evaluation. What did you want the children to learn? What conclusions can you draw? Make connections or integrations to the real world. Tell me about a time in other words, we're actually activating the prior knowledge of our teacher. Or encourages planning. What skills might the children gain through, or how can you include this to support learning? And finally, even facilitate prediction. What might happen if? Or how do you think the children would respond if? And then prompt through the process. Tell me about your decision making in that moment. Or how did you know? So, in considering these kinds of questions, let's go back to the beginning and look at your list of questions. In what category do they fit? How do these questions change how you think about your list of questions? So go back first at your list and see if they fit in these categories. And then reflect a little bit and think, how does this make you change your thinking about your list of questions?
With a lot of comparison, what was what can you close analysis is what something is important. And I like the word value. Yeah.
Like when you say them, do something interactive that like has nothing to do with lesson. Do you know what I mean? Like why did we do that? But like that comes off bad. What value did you see?
Right.
Sometimes they have to do first classroom. Especially learn to have respect, empathy, sympathy, sometimes classroom because you've been there as well.
That was my first year here. Alright, this one.
It's like more of a
School went to
at our site, and
so that we can learn to help single groups, individuals.
a lot of things, a lot of processes. Yeah, and so like, I think we kind of see that in our questions, kind of like, which plot can they come?
No, but I'm
Well, we all have the same, it's all the same.
Could probably a bit more.
I kind of have to put yourself into it. And as soon as I start asking questions, it's clear.
But still, it's like, and I know it sounds like
Dawn, she'll text me, she'll call, whatever. Casella, she's more of my
You don't mind.
she has
Or just be like, hey, as a reminder, this is our logo. It's like, that's like,
Again, I'm telling you, I give them
like, it's the same thing as like, I have my website that I use on. Yes, you should have it too.
We use it for you.
Why, Gina?
But that's kind of nature. Just like have enough things on.
I know my one,
Sirius XM.
5,
Oh, no, I just use Ox.
Sometimes that works well.
9, 10, 11.
Yeah. Auxiliary. My stepson says, what's that?
Right. Better.
Ox, right? I'm thinking oxygen.
Yeah.
That's exactly what came to mind. I've never heard of that one. Is that some kind of new app or something? No, you plug it in. Right, well, I guess not. Noticing for the first time this generation of gap. One of the trends I'm seeing
That's on mine too. She's still
outright verbal statements. Don't worry about it. It's kind of scary because there are questions that you need to ask.
You explained it in the first few years.
No matter what they want, it's like,
That's the
And then if for some reason you don't get done, you can go back and get skipped.
I've used it here.
And then you're still, you know what I'm saying? It's just, that there's like, I think it's like 2 years.
Technically, Aries.
I don't know, it's weird. Or maybe it's 1 year for a PIP and then you can switch to an intern. Don't use the certificate unless like what if you don't get your intern, or what if you don't get done in the 2 years of the internship or whatever, then you have to go back to a PIP. He had there was a whole process and it was like, it made sense when he was explaining it, but I can't remember. It's weird.
You can select. It's already all.
Right?
Email, message.
Yeah, when I graduated with multiple subjects, I never had a preliminary, it was a clear, because I did all my like clear classes as elective, like undergrad, so it was just like done.
Prime time, like April.
But then my credential, I was like,
And I know it's
but I just did the 1 year.
Wow.
Yeah, and then you can just go and I can set classes and then.
And I had to do it through Fresno County before they had it here.
You can set you up one for CSS and then.
Can't tell them.
Well, I mean, they can join, it's up to you. I mean, you
You
don't
don't have to do that thing.
like, maybe that's not good for you.
Imagine this.
But,
Plus came in 7 years younger than you and has 3 years experience.
like, these are.
They also be corresponding back to you.
Yeah, so like.
That's
Let's see. So like,
All right.
I emailed him.
So here's the thought. We're kind of talking about it at this table. I was making the observation that I'm really sensing a generational gap that I've never sensed before. Right? I always thought I was hip, cool. And you know, by the way, that there's a very small line between being cool and being nerdy, right? You know that? Okay. And so one of the things that we were talking about, I said, I was asking my stepson how they play music and when he's riding around with his dad, and he says, we use aux. Y'all know what aux is?
No, never heard of that one.
I don't know what aux is either. But because I was, prideful, I said, I just played it off like I knew what it was, right? And
That was your first mistake.
I know. My stepdaughter gets a new radio in her car, and I know that she has the ability to get Sirius XM, and did you want that, and how do you listen to music? Oh, no, we just use aux. Like, okay, what is aux? I thought it was an app, right? Like, whatever, the music app. No, you plug it in, you know that little hole in the dash? And you mean where it says AUX? Yeah, you mean where it says auxiliary? My stepson literally said, what's that?
That's what's off.
That's an
Auxiliary.
Oh.
Right? I feel you.
It's on your TV too.
Oh, yeah.
Plug their phone into that, they call it aux?
Yeah, call it
It's an
aux
aux cord.
instead of the auxiliary cord.
So we just.
Well, if you get in a car that you haven't hooked up your Bluetooth to that car, you can use the aux thing and that when you don't mess somebody else's up, or I
Yeah.
don't know. Right?
Phones don't have aux anymore.
I know
Phones
now.
don't know.
I know. I found I don't even have earphones anymore.
No,
So
you have to get the adapter thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So here's the trend that we're seeing is our another generational trend is our young people, the young teachers have this attitude and sometimes verbalize, I got this. Don't worry about it, I don't need any help, I got this. And they were saying, hey, that's our students too. So one of the things we discussed is, well, as a new teacher, I didn't even know how to ask for help because I had so many things, it's overwhelming, and didn't know where to start. So that's kind of what tonight's meeting is about, is how do we get a teacher to really go, that didn't really work as well as I thought it did it? And so how do I fix it? But what we know about people, and I know I would feel the same, if somebody that was had 4 years of experience and was 15 years younger than me walked in my classroom or walked into my office and said, this is how you got to do things, I would probably, because I know my personality, I'm passive aggressive, and I would probably say yes, of course, and then not do it. Some are more bold and they would just say, get out of here, I don't want to do it, right? We all have that defense mechanism. And so how do we get a teacher to be reflective? And that's the idea behind these questions that we're working through. Having open-ended questions, and here's the hardest part, not giving them the answer right away, especially. Or suggestions. The idea is that we can activate some of their prior knowledge, or we can activate, well, how did you solve this? Or and lead them through a process in which they're kind of digging deep. Have you ever noticed that the changes that you want to make are more permanent when you decide you want to make them versus your husband or wife decides you're going to make them? Right? You know, my wife, you will pick up your socks off the floor. Okay, that's a change that you make, and then I forget to do it because it wasn't internal. It was like, I'm complying. There's a big difference between that and I better pick up my socks because it makes my wife happy, and I want to do that. By the way, I always pick up my socks. Underwear is another noise. All right. So it's the ideas that we're leading to reflective conversations, and they come from our observations. And I wanted to give you a list of tools that you could use or ideas that you could use, and it's on this feedback goal list. And I want to explain them a little bit so that you can use them if you like when you're doing your observations, which should be right about now. You guys are getting in the classrooms and doing an observation, or you've already done one? Okay. Observing and scripting classroom activity. That sounds pretty basic, and it actually is. What does that sound like?
Writing what you see.
Right? It's my favorite tool to take a legal pad and just to start writing everything that I see. Good. Chunking classroom activities. So every 3 minutes or 4 minutes, I'm writing something down. What are we doing? Analyzing social organization and teaching activities. I say, what? Have we looked at why the students are in rows, or why they're in pairs, or why they're in groups of 4? And why did we split them up that way? Or which one works best given a context? Maybe I need to give a mini lesson, or some direct instruction, or I want to do a pair share, or small group activity. And helping you analyze that, you're looking for those kind of things. And then asking, well, why did you use a pair share right there? And how did that work? And what is, right? And maybe that you could see, boy, if they would have done this, it would have been a home run. And you're trying to lead them there through your questioning. Charting discussions and questions. We've talked about charting the movement of a teacher, and I'll address that in a moment. But have you ever just talked about the questions that the teacher's asking and the responses that they're getting from the students? Remember the big push a couple years ago, get all the students to answer in a complete sentence, right? Now I think the push is more. What are we trying to get to now? Well, we're
Having
trying to
them-
get the kids certainly to talk more,
But having them explain their answers and stuff.
and we're trying to get them to a higher order of thinking, right?
Which
So
is
we're
like
using-
explaining what they're doing.
Right? So coaches, are you guys using the depth of knowledge, or is that the tool of the day? Or the old school way, the Bloom's taxonomy, right? I know. We're stuck.
But
So-
that gets them there.
Yes, it does. It's the same idea. But the point that we're trying to make here is, you could go in and just write the questions that they're asking. Because oftentimes questions that are being asked are not written in the lesson plan. You kind of play it by ear, right? And what kind of response are they getting? And particularly if their focus is on lesson planning or differentiated instruction or engaging and supporting all students in learning, and we want to get them to think better. What kind of questions are they asking? And even better, who are they asking the questions to? So I know that random calling is still a big thing, but in my observations, I'm seeing it less and less. Is that kind of your experience? Are you guys seeing it less at TJ? There's less random calling and more of the hand holding again? Who has the answer? I'm calling.
I'm still seeing sticks.
I am still seeing some of that, but it's not as prevalent as it used to be.
Yeah.
Now, some are using randomizers and Class Dojo and some other tools, but they're still getting the random calling, and some are still using the sticks. Even at the high school level, we're seeing that, right? Some of that, the sticks being used. But I'm still seeing old habits come back of calling on students. My strategy was to call on the student that was not listening, right, to catch them. Bad technique, but or you heard the one teacher that was being evaluated, and he asked a question and he said to the class the day before, if you know the answer, put your right hand up, and if you don't, put your left hand up.
Yeah.
Let's hope they knew which one's the left.
All right, mapping classroom landscapes. How is the classroom arranged? Okay, and so I was in a history class the other day at Mentor High School, and the room was this size, and it was oriented this way, and instead of like long ways, and the back of the rows were touching the wall. And I thought, okay, how is this teacher walking the room? And I knew that wasn't happening. It was impossible for that teacher to. Well, he said, well, that's just today because we were doing this project, but tomorrow we'll move them back into groups or whatever. I said, either way, get them off the back wall. You need to walk behind your students. Look at how their landscape is. Even talk about things that are on the walls, right? So I challenged another teacher and said, hey, you got to get some stuff on your walls because it looks like my room. Pretty blank. And you want to create an environment where kids are excited to be there. And I even offered some budget money to figure that out and found some money for him to spend. Charting classroom movement. Now we've talked a lot about charting where teachers move. Have you ever thought of charting where students are moving? And do they move around? Especially at the elementary level, right? They're moving all over the place. Even at kindergarten, first, second grade, we've got all these centers and they're moving. Do you guys move in fourth grade?
No, not at all.
Okay. Alicia, do you still have centers in second grade? So they're moving. How are they moving? What are the procedures involved? Are you guys moving in junior high? Do they do any? Are they getting up to put laptops away or Chromebooks away or getting books out? Okay.
And they have a tendency to move their desks around more.
Yes, they do.
Their seating charts changed almost daily.
The teachers or the students are doing it?
The teachers are.
Okay. Do you like that or not like it?
I'm okay, but sometimes the way it's arranged, I can't get around it.
That's important. That's important. We've got to be able to work the room. We've got to be able to manage the room with our proximity. Good. Some teachers do really well by reflecting in writing. And of course, we have a journal already designed for that. But some people can express themselves or think more deeply about things by just journaling or writing about it. So that's an option for you. Now, here's the challenge. A really great tool is videotaping. Now, here's the thought. We have phones, we have iPads, we might even have a video camera. and the thought is that if it's gonna stay in-house between you and your teacher, you really don't have to worry about all the sign-offs and who has permission. We're not posting it to the web, we're not making it public. It's just between the two of you, and you can delete it when you're done. The nice thing is, new teachers that are going through the preliminary program have to videotape themselves now for the teacher performance assessment, and they have 2 of them. And multiple subject teachers that are taking RECA have an option of using a video to take that test. They're used to being filmed as they teach. It's not a new concept. It's a new concept to us. And I will tell you that it's hard to watch yourself, right? And I edit my videos, but I don't really like watching them. Right? The first thing I notice is my voice sounds funny. You listen to your talk on a recording of, wait, who's talking? Wait, that's me? And then I noticed on my video, I did watch a little bit of it, and I have a tendency to fiddle with my pockets, and so I'm trying to start a new habit of emptying my pockets, so I'm not fiddling with things, and I also noticed that I do this a lot, and I didn't even know that, and alright, so I don't know if that's distracting. It's comforting to me, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm part Italian and I talk with my hands. Alright, but videotaping can be incredibly enlightening because it's pure data. Your teacher's watching it, and it's not like you're giving an opinion and they can argue. They can see what's going on. It takes a little more work, but incredibly valuable. We had a chem teacher a couple years ago film himself, and he really looked at how he was questioning or giving questions to his students. And he realized that he was doing that thing in Ferris Bueller where he would ask a question and not wait long enough for a response, right? Bueller, right? And he would answer the question before the students had a chance to really think it through and answer. The second thing he discovered by filming himself were the students in the back row were playing with cell phones every time he would turn his back. And so he was able to address that.
Oh, that's fine.
So here are a whole bunch of different types of ideas and tools you can use when you go do your observation. And I wanted to make sure that you had it so you didn't have to write notes off the slides. So they're listed on this paper.
And is it legal for us to do that?
As long as it's between you and your teacher, yes. Because you're not publishing it, it's not going out anywhere else, your admin team's not getting it, you're not giving it to your class, it's not coming to me, it's not being submitted into Google Classroom, and so we're not violating the student's privacy, because it's in-house, the 2 of you, you did it, and then when you're done, you delete it.
The videos for their credential, though, they do have to go through that whole sign-off.
They do.
When I was just helping one of my new teachers, it's not just videotaping, they had to like sit through it and annotate it.
So they had to analyze their own teaching before they submitted it?
Yeah, it was like the way they submit it through whatever university he's working through. There's like the video plays on top, and on the bottom is white space. And you gotta put things like minute 2:30. This is where I was trying to create student. Yeah, it was.
I did that for my credential also.
You
I did that
did?
for like 7 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah.
And where did you go to school for your
Cal Poly, my student teacher from East Somerset is gonna have to do the same thing.
Wow, so they were
I think
adopting it
it's a
early.
CTC thing. I don't know. It's,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
It is now.
So it's not just videotaping, they gotta go through and submit it with annotations.
So they're used to, but my point is that they're used to being filmed
Yeah.
and looking at it and analyzing it. We're not, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right, so having said all of that, I'm gonna show you, we're gonna do 3 things right now. One is, I'm gonna show you a video, and it's okay for you to laugh and make fun of it. And you're going to pretend that you're observing it, and in a moment, one of you is gonna pretend to be that teacher, and one of you is gonna be the mentor, and you're gonna lead your teacher through a reflective conversation. Then we're going to switch roles, because I'm gonna show you another video, and you get to practice again, and then we'll do a 3rd exercise before we go tonight.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Before the break, we're starting now. Could you sit down? Sorry. Yeah, now please. Thank you. Okay, so before the break, we were looking at functions, and if you remember, what we were doing was you can add a new word or new idea to Python by saying, let's define foo of x to be, I don't know, return type of x. And then, of course, we can just print foo of, I don't know, 2783 or something like that, and it tells you that this thing's an integer, right? This is really simple stuff. I mean, even Excel users can understand this. So what we're going to do now is take a look at some of the other things that we can do with functions. Now, the def keyword here is really important. That's what tells you that you're creating a function, but you're defining, not using this is instantiating a new function object. It's not actually invoking anything. So, and yes, it's flexible binding. So what we're going to do now is if I say something like, okay, let's just do something really simple, like double of x is return 2 times x, which of course is polymorphic.
Hold on a second, guys. You think that's what it is?
No, because the bottom's not showing up yet, so it's like
Yeah,
it's
it's
little
right.
connection.
We can double 3, right? And as you'd expect from something which is busy binding types, we can double foo, and right, it works like this. So for those of you who haven't seen functions before, don't worry about this. This is what you expect. Trust me. So, sorry. Right. So what we're going to do now is if I can say,
Oh, I did see that.
function.
I was so stuck on it. Trust me.
Yeah. I'm like, what is he?
So,
He did it again.
Did you see it?
He did it again.
Well, not again. I rewound it.
Oh, okay, you rewound it. I was gonna say, he did it again.
Did you see that?
Yes.
Oh,
We didn't have him wipe it. And then he gets his phone.
Now he's on his phone.
Right. So what we're going to do now is if I then say functor, the function of O plus f of O, and then I can say functor of double 3 and right, that should return 6. Oh, sorry, my bad.
Sandra, do you have any idea what he's talking about?
No.
No, I like the one who says, you need to know this, but don't worry about it.
I don't even know what he's talking about.
Find a higher level function that lets me start passing functions around as parameters. Because a function is just a data object, so you can pass it in. So what we're really doing here is saying 3 plus 2 times 3 plus 2 times 3, which is 12. Any questions?
Yeah.
Any questions? That was hilarious. Any questions? Everyone's hands up. Or no one's hands up because they just don't want to stop.
It's really sad.
Okay, well,
Oh my gosh. Is that a college class or a high
Doesn't
school?
matter. But he doesn't make any
Okay,
sense
we're
at all.
starting now.
The
Just
stuff
sit
that
down, we're starting.
All right.
That was super sad.
So you don't think that he said any...
Is that actually real? Or is it just a
It
joke?
has to be fake.
I think it's real.
Probably a college level class.
It looks like college.
No,
It looks
it
like a
doesn't
college
make
level.
sense. Because he was talking about functions, but why would he make it like something
Well, no wonder
like
they
7
call it
plus 3?
mistake or case
That makes no sense.
He was talking about Python
Right?
with their coding operations.
Oh my god, that's
Oh, so
so
he doesn't even know.
So I'm gonna, because we've been picking on young people tonight, I'm gonna make the young people be the mentor
Yeah,
and older people be the teacher that needs some reflecting.
that's
So
functional.
you'll have to determine of your pair who's the oldest and who's the youngest. And I have a 3-year, and so I have a mixed match shape. You guys want to pull together over here? So that paired up, and then have you come over here. And you'll slide around and sit here. Or have, oh sorry, yeah. Of course, I'm going to do some math here. Just because you were sitting on the end by yourself. All right, go. Need your teacher to reflect what comprehension.
No.
this is the winter.
And how would you know that they got it? Did you have any data to show, like, if they've, if they're understanding it? That's what
What they don't get. No one anything, so I'm pretty sure they.
Way to channel the piano. Oh my god, that was for all students. So do you feel like you've set up some procedures in your class so that they understand what you're doing?
Some students maybe and I'm still pretty sure.
Like what about like just simple procedures like how do they know when you're starting the lesson besides like you telling them that they're starting? Do you have any like procedures written for that? So that's something that, so that's something that maybe
Describe what happened.
kind of instill in them so that it's not something that I saw what you were thinking. Yeah, how would you work on that? How would you want that procedure to play out?
I would maybe I could put a warm up or something, like someone that was like on the screen and talking
That's a good start. They signed up now. Right, that's the good kind of alleviate you know, wasting that time.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, that's like see, we got there. We got him to think. Oh my god, that was well, like, if it was real, why would you post it on LinkedIn? Unless someone did it, like, without his permission. You know? Oh my god, that was so they have to they start off with like well, and I like even like turning around and head back to the kids, you know, for a second there, saying, oh, this and this, and he's typing out what he wants them to know, like those particular notes. One of the things like how, like the question you should ask him, like, how did you prepare for this ahead of time? You know, for him, he didn't prepare at all.
He was just like literally like
and then he goes, oh wait, no, that's wrong. Hold on, let me come back. Like I agree. So like
I'll change this.
And then they got like that was like he didn't even have a thought process.
I was lost, so I just had
He kept saying functions and this and that.
It was clear that the mind was all over the place because that was what was working.
Right.
That's true. You're right, yeah.
You know, and you have this
I've never been so good. I like it. We were talking about how
College. Yeah, but he was not prepared at all. Like we were talking about that was like he had like he would start to say something. Oh wait, hold on. No, that's wrong. Hold on, let's go back.
He's like literally talking and typing as it just came out.
Yeah, like you said, vomit.
oh, no. See, that is, I'm not doing that. That's weird because you're putting it in a saying that they.
Yeah, you would think.
I mean, it's kind, but I'm not doing that.
I know, I was around like.
I know. No, maybe you should. I don't think you should, like, you're just gonna do it.
They just finished their CA.
And then they're sitting there, one questions from a book. And then we have the book. It's like the book's right there, like you can't get up.
And that's why, because all my students,
We were talking to you, I can only read the book. You read it.
that way I have, like, it's like 2 minutes to make it. Like, we took, now we took this one, they have this whole class to do that, and this whole week, they're so that way.
You're gonna need to learn about the book. Unless you memorize the chapter.
We hired one this year that's like that. Just a whole new pattern.
Do you guys have to give them, a certain day, like, do you have to give yours a certain day, because you're required math?
Yeah, he had to put his back to the audience. And he was like trying to point. Oh, I can see that. He doesn't have a pointer. I wanted to go. Yeah. Yeah.
I know, but I feel like
I mean, I think it is.
Excuse for me.
I met with Justin today.
Right.
I even forgot what I heard. I was saying that's my class.
Like you even went to class.
Like football reps, we all like see out there talking. I don't know if you're there's I know they have those. Have you ever? I've got them just on the basics. So and they have them that's really $7. Here. Yeah, it's like if you look up Amazon Basics and stuff like that. And then you just like t-shirts. I bought a bunch because I was wearing my and stuff.
Well, that was because she was saying, I was like, how do you know that they understood? She goes, well, no one raised their hand that they didn't understand it, so they looked at it.
I was explaining on that, and then they said, I'm like,
Sure, because I'm ready. I practiced all night. You know, I sit in the mirror, you know, they were cracking up, but you know, you stay down.
so, are you, that's very cute.
But yeah, I know video.
I think when you're like, and then, that's hard though. Right.
Around 6:30.
This far away.
All right, let me interject for a moment. We're going to watch another video and you're going to change roles, and then we have one more project. But I want to, I may have told you this before, but I want to tell you one more time. If we go back ancient times, any history teachers in the house? Yeah, okay, so if we go back to before civilization, how did people live? So I live in Brazil. I'm a hunter-gatherer. Okay, and any dangers out there?
Yeah.
All right. And by the way, anyone afraid of spiders? Spider?
I don't.
My buddy's afraid of spiders. How about snakes? That's my thing. Now, how about spiders and snakes together, right?
Yeah.
Now that you're walking in the forest in Brazil, or you're in the savannah of Africa, what do you need to be aware of? You need to be aware of things that can kill you.
Yes.
You're looking for the thing that is wrong, that's out of place, that doesn't belong, that's dangerous. What's interesting is we have carried that into our DNA, and we still do that. And the way we do that is, naturally, we look for what is wrong first before we look at what is right. It's human nature. So I'm not criticizing anybody. I want you to be aware of, though, that we have a tendency to criticize first, and then, oh, and by the way, you did this good too. So I want to piggyback that with this thought. All of us carry labels in our mind. And when we carry a label, just like in science, we are looking for evidence that confirms that label, and then it becomes a feedback loop. We begin to live up to that label or down, looking for more evidence, and then our behavior continues to go in that direction. We have labels that were given to us by our parents. Some of them are positive and some of them are not. We have labels that were given to us through experience, and we have labels that we have just given to ourselves out of our own imagination. Most of them are negative, and most of them are false. Here's an example. This husband had a kind of a busy job. He would come home, and every time he came home, he'd be kind of grumpy. He'd kind of run to the restroom, stay in there for 20 minutes to kind of decompress, and just kind of grumpy. One day, his wife just breaks down crying, and she says, "I'm sorry I'm such an irritation to you. I don't mean to be an irritant, but I know I'm irritating you, and I'm so sorry." Big old crocodile tears coming down her face. And he turns to her and says, "What are you talking about? Well, you come home and you're so upset every time when you come through the door, and I know I'm irritating you." He says, "Are you kidding? You're the best part of my day. I carry all of this stuff from work that's garbage that I'm carrying, and I'm irritated from the things that I'm dealing with at work. And I'm sorry, I bring them into the house, and I will leave them in the car." And he instantly switched her label from "I'm irritating" to "I'm the best part of his day." Now she's going to begin to look for evidence of that, and she's going to live up to that label. As teachers, we have a tendency to do the same thing to our students. It's a reinforcement error that we're making. And so think about, I always think of my daughter, 4th grade, hated math, right? And multiplying and memorizing that, and she wasn't having none of that. And there was other things going on in her life, but it all kind of hit at that point. And she has been weak at math for the rest of her. She's just graduated high school and wants to be a fine arts teacher or performing arts. She hasn't quite made up her mind yet, but she's going to Fresno City, Fresno State, and away she goes. As long as she gets to avoid the math. Imagine that my Ashley's sitting here in 4th grade, and you guys are working on multiplication, and as a teacher, Ashley raised her hand, I don't know what to do, and the teacher comes over, "Oh, you made a multiplication error right here," and walks away. What did Ashley just hear? I made another mistake, of course, reinforcing her label of "I'm a bad math student," and then she begins to look for more evidence to confirm that. What I'm training our new teachers to do in our classroom management is to first come over and find a praise. Hey, you did steps 1 through 4 perfectly. You're a little messed up on step 5. It's on the board. Would you review step 5? And I'm going to come back to you. So we talk about praising, prompting the student, and then leaving the student. But the real lesson is to find the positive first. In our discussions, and we looked at this guy and we're laughing at him, and you guys wanted to rip a new one because, oh my gosh, did you engage your students? Did you activate prior knowledge? Did you have a hook? Did you decide if your students were getting it? Did you ask any questions? Were you polite? Were you distracted? All kinds of things you wanted to ask him. Did he do anything right? And is there a way to start with, hey, you look sharp today. I like the outfit you chose. I don't know what you start with, but there's got to be something that we can start with on the positive side, because it removes the label and it begins to open our ears up for what comes next. Okay? And then your questioning isn't critical, it's just helping the teacher to kind of understand what you saw. Having said all that, we're going to see another video, and I want you to switch roles and do the same thing. I'm having all kind of problems tonight. Aw, man.
It's not linked.
We'd save that.
So we have been doing a lot with solving word problems. So up here it says, I can use a variety of strategies to add and subtract within 100. And we've been doing addition. So we've been using many different strategies. Can somebody tell me some strategies that we've been using to solve addition problems? Ava, can you give me a strategy that we've been using?
Make a 10.
Make a 10, very good. Can you explain what make a 10 is?
You take some ones from the number that isn't closest to a 10 to make another number with a multiple of 10. So because a number with a 0 is very easy to add to.
I love what Ava just said at the end. She said a number with a 0 at the end. All of our multiples of 10 are easier to add, right? We just saw that over there. We added those super quick in our head, didn't we? So if we can make a 10, that helps the problem be much easier, right? Katie, can you give me another strategy that we've been working on to solve addition problems?
Regrouping.
Regrouping, or using our standard algorithm of lining up the 1s and the 10s. Awesome. And can somebody tell me our last strategy that we've been using to solve addition problems? Mia, can you tell us the last strategy?
Break apart.
Our break apart method, very good. And that, Mia, can you tell us what that is? Remind us what the break apart method is?
The break apart method is a method where you take a number, let's say I had 27. So there's 2 10s and 7 1s. So you would put 20 and then plus 7.
Great. So we would use that expanded form that we've been doing so much of. We break apart our number into 10s and 1s, and then we add our 10s and our 1s. Nice job. So what I have here is I have our strategies that we've been using up here so that you can look at these as you solve the problem.
All right, switch roles and give some.
They don't understand how to switch their brain. Right. Even as teachers, we were stuck on that for so long. We were trying to get our brain to switch to like, okay, how did you get there? It's like hard for us.
Whenever you ask for volunteers, last year would have thought like a better like CFUs. But I don't think that's what her goal was. I think her goal was just to recall the strategies that you just learned. So I think in that, on that whole
That means I'm getting all the strategies you get the poster there so they can use it scout for their citizens that are
So it's like, I remember like, CCC, I just like, because I already,
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Alright, some of the questions I heard, we talked about, I think, pair sharing over here, is that right? And the idea of how do we get all of our students to talk. A question here was, what do we do about students that are not raising their hand, or how do we call on everybody? And so those are some good questions. What, you guys have similar questions over here?
We said the same thing, the non-volunteers
So how do we get
and
them
the
all
whiteboards,
involved?
using the whiteboards.
Overall, did you feel better about that lesson than the other?
I wish our kids would have, because they didn't interrupt each other at all. And our ninth graders interrupt each other constantly.
All right, so now here is a challenge, and I want to carry this out one more degree and make it about you. So you can decide who gets to go first, but I want one of you to lead the other in some reflective questioning about your mentoring practice. In particular, what are you doing really well, and what are some areas that you still feel like I can get better at? So some areas of growth for yourself, or the person that you're sitting across from, and you may not know them very well, so this is a good challenge. But I want to try to really put into practice what we've been talking about tonight, and see how we can make it about you and getting better as a mentor. So you'll need to pick who's going to go first, and get started.
Well, do you want to reflect on your practice first, or do you want me to?
Yeah, so something you're doing really well, and what are some areas of growth you see as a mentor?
And we're talking right now.
Yes, but you're also trying to keep the role play going. One of you is
I see.
reflective.
Okay, so I'm really good at
next year,
We will be starting to
like the next year, our
Right.
Oh, really? When I want to talk with you, I need to say something positive. I know that when we have the conversation, I need to say something, but I just want to help her right away. You know, like, oh, it would have been sooner, or that in my partner share. I just want to help her. It was better. And then
I feel like I'm
how do you feel about it? But
You know what I mean? But like now that she's
drama with her,
like I pop in,
and somebody else asks you a
like just
question,
walking by, you know, and I pop in around here for like 5 minutes.
there's a whole I had like talking about
She's actually, she A1 English, she only has 4 kids before, you know, and just her and Kara, but she has teenagers. Like I feel like when I do go in there, she's just kind of like has that kind of how do you feel?
well, don't talk to me. What I got too.
You know, I feel like she kind of has that track somewhere. She's just kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm doing this for her. And she's very, like,
So I think maybe instead of
she's very, like, one token boards and stuff like our own, you know, I can't remember, but so she's taking initiative to like go and pass them and everything, and I'm like, I feel like I should be doing that to her more, but I'm glad that she's taking initiative and doing it on her own, you know. It's not in her. Yeah, I know that's just so much on my face, like, you know what I mean? Even though she's at the same location, I still feel like it's still hard to get there. Oh, and he was like, oh, you've been around stations, and I was like, oh, I was like, I forget it. And she's like, so, like, she's got this, so it's like, I feel like she's good, and so I feel like she doesn't need as much, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Right, to just talk about stuff. I can imagine
I see her all the time. She's with the same college. I see her all the time.
Because of early hours, then I got cross country. My cheerleaders are like, when are we gonna start cheer? When I'm not coaching for the hour. And then I feel like all that I was supposed to do the other day. And I had like no time to get done with practice. Because I don't hurt that one I'm working 5 days a week, and it's like, I'm just like, you know, so I try to get in there when I can, or like on early out days when we have meetings and nothing like pressing for sped, then we like really chit chat about stuff, but it is fun. You know, like today we had to like pick up with that was under my ear, so it's like then I had to get close to that. There wasn't even with my other groups because of that. So it's like when stuff like that comes up, and it's just like, yeah, I can't
So you both got a chance to share? You both got a chance to share?
But it was like, they knew what they were doing. It wasn't like a brand new first.
All right, guys, we're going to conclude.
You know what I'm saying? But just like,
there is an evaluation on your agenda, or if you want to use the one on the board, there's only like 3 questions. It'll just take you a few minutes. And then if you would pack up and take your papers with you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time. magical, and so yeah, so we have somebody, a nun. And I thought he was at your side. But he's in South. Yeah, so no, but you have a full caseload, you had 3, right? And that's why I said, no, we can't do it.
I said that again already today.
Oh, camera, just kidding.
So many times today. It's like our 3rd time.
Oh my God, that was my twin.
Yeah. Met this morning, we met this afternoon, evening. We'll have dinner. I gotta go back. Alright, let's see you.